bringing you Delivering Ice with a Purpose during the COVID-19. This webinar will begin a series of educational platforms Modern Ice will be producing that will include expert insights, client perspectives, and follow-up connectivity opportunities. Modern Ice leads off the series with a technology that will enhance delivery or allow you to deliver with a purpose during COVID-19 and after. In addition to this webinar, Modern Ice is scheduling future ones that will include topics such as plant sanitation in our new clean world, leadership roundtable looking at what's next. Today, Modern Ice has engaged two experts to discuss the purpose and how you deliver. In addition, we have one client participating to support our experts and offer a user's perspective. Before introducing our client and experts, I want to share some information on logistics for today. From a video standpoint, our guests today will see our two experts and their information on your screens. Our client and myself will be on audio only, and our guests listening in today can interact in two different ways. One is via chat on your screen, sending a question. Our guests will not have the opportunity to have audio to verbally interact with the experts or client, only through this chat. Additionally, we will be asking 3 polling questions during this presentation that we want you to answer, and we will give you insights and the results of the questions after calculating for a moment during the process. One last thing too, as it relates to conversing with you, is we will do a follow-up after the webinar that all will get the information. Now to introduce our client, followed by our experts, and start with our first polling question. Our client today is Tony Dixon of Olmsted Ice in Olmsted, Ohio. He's an owner, he's an ICE person, he's an IceQ user and integrator. We welcome Tony. Our expert presenters today are Juan Marte, president and owner of IceQ Technologies. Juan has developed technology for ICE delivery over 10 years ago. He has an extensive experience with delivery technology and how that data helps you. John Murphy, executive vice president at Modern Ice for 20 years, has a CPA background, financial analyst, and will demonstrate the financial impact of this technology for your business. So again, we welcome our guests joining us, and we are all ready to get started. Our first event in our webinar will be an interactive question with our registered guest. You will see a question and you will enter an answer. The first question is, do you believe that you will have clients concerned with the number of times that you are in their stores? And you just click on yes, no, or haven't thought about, and then hit submit. And we'll be able to calculate the answers immediately. As we compile the results for Juan to review with you, I'd like to turn this presentation over to our expert, Juan Marte. Juan?
How you doing, Gary? Thanks for hopefully one of many of these webinars that you're instituting across the enterprise. I think it's fantastic. If you guys, the audience, I wish you guys all safe journeys. Hope you guys are all safe. And if you guys have finished the survey by clicking one of the options, it'll help us conduct. All right. Well, survey results are in. 35% of you said yes, you guys have concerns that the clients have you guys showing up at the store more often than you not. 15% said no, and 15% said haven't thought about it. So with that, I'll get started. All right, so how does IceQ combat COVID-19? The answer is incredibly simple. That answer is information. Information that tells you exactly how full your ice boxes are or if they're operating correctly. With this information, you achieve 3 strategic elements. 1, you can increase the client and team safety of your operation, reduce costs and increase productivity, and enhance the customer service experience. I'm going to go ahead into these 3 points. First one of which is top of mind. You guys responded that yes, you have concerns about showing up at the store more often than you should. So how do you combat that? The answer is incredibly simple. Go when you need to go. With IceQ technology, we give you that information to let you know exactly which accounts need to be serviced. So you're not increasing visits unnecessarily and making every drop profitable. So reducing your, oh, sorry, there is another question here, and this one is important before I get into my part. Guys, how often do you show up and that box is half full or more? You can respond all the time, sometimes, rarely, never. Go ahead and click one of the choices and we'll review the responses. And our survey results are being compiled. Survey says 4% of you said all the time, and the rest of you, 65%, said sometimes. Okay, pretty compelling. And I'll get back into my slide here. Okay, so reducing your deliveries, that is the name of the game in the COVID crisis, outside the COVID crisis. It's using information to be efficient about going to which sites at the right time. Here you see a little map. In fact, it's, I believe, Tony's account. And with this map, you can see our data giving you that coveted data point. Which account should I serve? The accounts in green are fine. They're 55% or higher in terms of capacity. The yellow, somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 to 75. And then anything red, the one that's in there right now, is 19% or low. So imagine with this information, you can surgically and strategically address which accounts need to be served. It's no more guessing, no more wasted trips. You get to make every stop profitable. With that said, I think it's a good segue to introduce Tony, client expert and longtime user of IceQ. Tony, welcome, and you can give your perspective, please.
Tony Dixon from Olmsted Ice. First thing I want to do is do a little intro about myself here. Me personally, I've been in the business for over 25 years. My family's been in the ice business since 1979. Like most kinds of companies out there, they started small and worked up to what they are today. Now, how did I get to meet this guy that's been talking here before, Juan? Well, it's very interesting. I like to tell this story because Juan started off. He put a little ad inside Refrigeration Magazine, and I did that. And at that time, there was the Never Empty program and things like that going on with the scales and things like that. And I saw Juan's product, and I saw the use of these sensors, sonar, to be able to find out how full these ice chests were. And I said, "Wow, this is great." So I immediately called him up, and Juan and I think Juan kept me on the phone for a couple hours talking about this product, and I got very excited. Juan got very excited, and really? After that phone call, I said, "Hey, why don't you let Olmsted Ice help you? We can be the pilot program," because I believed in in this product and its future, because us, like most ice companies out there, were getting killed with the wasted trips and the short trips. So this product here was going to help do that. So Olmsted Ice got on board with Juan, and we helped basically become like an R&D department. And with that, we wanted to, because we had a huge vested interest in really wanting to make this product the very best it can be. And working with Juan has been a pleasure over the years here, to him taking in our ideas and really helping the product become to what everybody sees on the screen today. So moving on to, as far as like the waste, going on to the wasted trips. And again, we started off this conversation today a little bit about COVID, and I'm sure a lot of people on the calls right now have probably gotten some type of phone letters or emails or even phone calls from some of your stores right now, especially grocery store change. They've set up different delivery rules, and with that, right, it was like some of my chains here. We have to wear gloves, we have to wear masks. In certain situations, we're not allowed to let the customers do the handheld, sign the handhelds and things. With the IceQ, we're not stuck going there multiple times. We're going there when we have to go there. And I'm sure I know all the stores that have my product, that have this IceQ sensor, love it. And this product here has helped us reduce the trips. And because of COVID right now, it's more valuable than it's ever been. So with that, again, I'm very happy to be here to help represent IceQ. I believe in its future. I'm investing in its future. I love it. And from there, I'll give it back to you, Juan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tony, for the accolades. It's always been a pleasure to chat with you and have you as a solid partner and help us shape the product to be what it is today. So we couldn't have done it without you. So thank you for that. So again, I think Tony synthesized and summarized exactly what this is doing. And it's just that. It's giving you information, critical information, to help you be more efficient. And in today's climate with the COVID, this thing works even better. So next slide here, some challenges that you face, solutions that we address. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I'll highlight a few. I know you got customers that call up and frantically say, I need ice, I need ice. Well, you can look with one click and find out, no, you don't need ice. You're 50% full. And I know you won't need a delivery until another 3 days. So that's addressing information to your benefit. We also understand that delivering ice is probably the most expensive part of your operation. So the less times that you have to do that, the more productivity you gain and the more money you save. What about the situation where somebody unplugs the icebox to charge their phone? Seen this happen a dozen times. All of a sudden now you got a hot shot, you got to go fill the product. It looks like a fishbowl. It's a disaster. IceQ saves that with our technology because we detect that the unit's been unplugged. Far away locations, this part just kills me. I have no idea why anybody wouldn't invest in IceQ, especially in the remote areas. You have 30 miles, 40 miles. Some of you guys drive 100 miles. How in the world can you be effective by going there guessing, calling the customer, asking if they're full? No. Use technology to find out if you need to go. Last thing, amidst the COVID, is that this is a huge customer satisfaction tool. In fact, many of our customers have used IceQ to gain business from their competitors by showing to the customer that we're going to be there less times, we're going to be there when we need to be there, and you're never going to be out of ice. And they say, how? Well, we've got this technology that tells us exactly how full it is and what the temperature of the box is. Really? I don't have to call you anymore? No. This is what we can do. It's a real competitive advantage. So how much does it cost? How much money is it going to take to get? What's the return? When do I see a payback? Well, Mr. John Murphy of Modern, Executive VP, sorry, Mr. Murphy, will walk you through the ROI and what the investment looks like. John, turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Juan.
You're welcome.
Before getting into the real minute details of all the costs that go into a delivery, I find kind of the bigger numbers more exciting to look up front. I like to think about if you can reduce the amount of stops you got to make at stores, what if it could avoid me having to buy another 16-foot truck or another 22-foot truck, or even what if I could employ one less driver? When I think of possibly saving $105,000 to $155,000 on a truck, or $50,000 on a driver, those are big numbers. Now, going to the smaller numbers, you have to think about, I've talked to many ICE companies. I've done many ROI studies for many companies, for a bagger, for an ice machine, for many various products. And most ICE people, they always know what it costs to make a bag of ice or to make a pound of ice. Rarely can any of them give me a very good number of what it costs to make a stop at a store to deliver a bag of ice. I've taken surveys, I've talked to people, I've ran numbers, and I've gotten estimates anywhere between $20 and $60 a stop. And that's a pretty wide range, and there's no correct answer because every ice company does it a little bit different. Some have a helper with a driver, some are unloading by skid, some are doing by hand truck, some have to go all the way into a store. So there's many things that can change that cost. But regardless of whether it's $20 or $60, the certainty is that it costs more to distribute your ice than it does to make your ice. When you think about everything, if you're trying to calculate what your cost is to deliver a bag of ice or to stop at a store, you have to think about fuel, the cost of a delivery ticket, taking the time to write one, the benefits of your workers, your payroll taxes, the cost to send an invoice, the depreciation on your truck, your payroll, your truck maintenance, your truck insurance. With and thinking about all those things, that's a lot that make up the cost to stop. And so with that, I wanted to put up a question and just see what everybody's opinion on what they think it costs to make a stop at a store. So if you could pick one of those numbers and hit submit. And we'll give you all about 5 more seconds. Okay, so we got the results, and it looks like we have the majority said $45, and then it goes from 45 to 25, and then to 35. So anywhere, it looks like the average is probably in the 35 range of what the opinions were. We did have one person say 55. Okay. So with that being said, I did a sample ROI here, and keep in mind that on this sample ROI, any one of you at any given time, you can call the sales rep who represents your territory, or you can call me, and we can customize this for you. So, and the main questions we need to know are the questions on the left that are highlighted in yellow. So by answering those questions, we can do a calculation that shows exactly how much money you can save by instituting this this product. So in this example, we just said, what if we bought 30 units? We buy them, and they're all sold at $285 each, and they all have a $7.95 per month fee. And I used a delivery cost of $45. Now we just saw there was a kind of a wide range of what people had answered, anywhere from 25 to 55. And in a minute, I'll change the screen where it'll show a range of answers, but I just wanted to show how we plug it in for one specific dollar amount. So we put in $45. We put in 52 deliveries a year, and I know that can change a lot. Some customers you probably visit twice a week, so that's double. And we put in that you would save 25% of your stops. I've seen that where some customers have said that's higher. They've saved more stops than that, but that's what we used for this one particular scenario. So in this particular scenario, it basically shows in year one, you're going to spend $8,500 buying these units, and you're going to spend $2,800 for the fee that keeps them connected via Wi-Fi, or not Wi-Fi, but the internet. So the IceQ investment for the first year, the total of those two items is $11,000, and you're going to save $6,000 in your first year. The second year, you're going to save $14,000. The third year, $14,000, and the fourth year, you're going to save $14,000. And those savings because in year 2, year 3, and year 4, you don't have to buy the IceQ units unless you add more merchandisers to the system. But those savings equal out to, in this example, $50,000 over 4 years. And if you look, it takes a half a year to get your money back from this investment. So, normally anytime you can get your money back in less than 2 or 3 years, it's a great investment. When you can get your money back in a half a year, it's a great investment. So now I'm going to shift to this screen, which shows I ran it at $25, I ran it at $35, I ran it at $45 and $55. Those numbers are across the 4 columns you see on your screen. Again, I used 30 IceQ units, your one-time cost, what the cost to pay the fee monthly is, and how long it takes to pay off the investment. So at $25, it takes a year and a quarter, and at $55, it takes closer to a half a year. On the first year savings, you're going to the first $25. Yes, you lose money the first year, but by time you have 4 years, you've saved $19,000, and you have an 81% return per year every year after the first year. At the $55, you're going to have a 217% return per year every year after that first year. And those are incredible numbers that are hard to pass up. So before going any further, I thought it's a great time, because it's easy for me to stand back here and calculate this, but it's be a lot easier or a lot better for you all if we bring Tony in and ask him for his perspective, since he's been using this so long and what he has seen on these types of savings. Tony?
Of putting together an actual ROI for the IceQ units. And I'll be honest, I've been using IceQ almost since day one, and I've never taken the time to really pound out the numbers like they did right here, to really show what type of return on investment that you're getting with this type of technology. But what I'm looking at right here looks very accurate from what I've known. So, I love talking about the IceQ product. I've talked to many icemen in my travels at conventions and such about this type of product. And an analogy I'd love to use with the IceQs is the old man ice way. And we're talking years ago with my dad, when he used to route every single stop. They had the carpet bombing approach, hit everybody. Just constantly keep pounding away, keep filling up, keep going in, topping off chest. Sometimes you got lucky and you made a good delivery. Sometimes you went in, you dropped nothing or very little at all. So little that it wasn't even worth opening up the back of the truck. IceQ took care of that problem for me and really moved us more into a smart bomb type of approach of delivery of the ice. So looking at these numbers here, I'll tell you a little study that I did in my company. And I welcome anybody after they start getting these IceQ units to check this themselves. And I think they're going to find the same thing if you really go with the IceQ concept. I have a very large chain of stores, and it's about 48 stores. It's a grocery chain. It's my bread and butter account at Olmsted Ice, and so I added up, and that's where I put these IceQs in first. And over 3 years, I added up every single stop that I did. And I did an average of the invoices totals and such. So I found out after 3 years I reduced the amount of stops by 52%. Okay, but the average invoice went up by 48%. So what was happening is, especially during the summer, in the summertime, I might go to some of these locations 4 times in a week. I was able to reduce that sometimes down to 2 times a week, or even 1 time a week if you had a crappy week, a rainy weekend, or even you're coming into season, going out of season. But during the off season, where I was going into these places every couple of weeks, again, carpet bombing, just making sure this premier account did not run out of ice, we moved that 2 week up to 3, 4, sometimes even 5 weeks if the weather was really crapping and they just weren't moving. So when I look at these numbers right here, I can say, yeah, this is very accurate. So when you're thinking about the IceQ, everybody, you think about also is like where are these savings coming in? What are the savings we got? Well, I can think of 3 places, and I think John will talk about this too. When you're out there and you're able to strategically go out and hit your stops, you can do this with less trucks. You can do this with a less driver, and you can do this with less boxes. I'm sure everybody out there right now has had places where they've seen serviced by multiple ice chests. We're talking 3, 4 ice chests. I've taken accounts from competitors and cut that down to 2 ice chests. We walk in with this sensor unit in our hand and said, I'm going to reduce your electric costs. I'm going to cut your electric costs in half because you are not going to run all those boxes. You're going to do this with 2 boxes rather than 4. And I can speculate that my total deliveries that I went in to deliver to 2 boxes was probably very similar to my competitors' 4-box drops, because many times he was going in probably going in when they were about 2/3 full. Okay, but my deliveries were I was catching them at the right moment, rotating the ice and getting the stuff in there at the right time. So I also like to talk about the use of the product when you compare it to winter use and summer use. In the winter, up in Cleveland, it can get pretty cold, but my trucks go out in the winter and they come back empty. And I think a lot of ice companies out there, you send your trucks out there and you send it out with 6 pallets of ice and they come back half empty. Okay. Sometimes it wasn't even worth sending that guy on the road. And one thing I like to say is during the off season, I like to say you work hard to not work in the off season. Well, this right here will keep those guys home, keep that payroll cost down. If that truck goes out, it's going to come back and it's going to be making money. But that's just winter. Well, how does something like this help in the summer? Summer too is huge. Like in the summertime, we can still keep reducing those trips. And one really wonderful way that I love using this product is especially on a very busy, hot Saturday. So you get into Saturday and 2 o'clock in the afternoon is when I'm saying, okay, how am I going to get through the day without killing my guys and making them work multiple extra hours to go out there and hit all the stops that I had planned to hit? Well, if you got ice cube units out there, you know who you have to hit. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you know who you can push to Sunday and be there first thing in the morning. When my Saturdays or Sundays start up, I know exactly who I got to hit first thing in the morning and who can wait till the afternoon. So it's been wonderful in that way. And in that way, I can make sure that I'm using less trucks. And one other thing I'd like to close with here is false calls. And I love this one. You get a phone call from a customer that says, hey, I'm out of ice. And you pull up his ice cube unit and say, no, you're not. Yeah, and we kind of laugh at that at the office. And he says, I need ice right away. And I can tell right away by looking at his ice cube, he's sitting at 50%. And I'm like, no, you don't. I don't like telling that. But I do know that and I watch his ice cube, and most likely he'll need a delivery the next day. Again, you spread it out a little further. You got a larger invoice and probably saved yourself another trip. Okay, so I'm going to hand this back to John. I hope I didn't talk too much there for you, John, but I'll hand it back to you. And some great work here, guys, at Modern. And it's very nice to see an actual ROI on the ice cube and know that I've been right all along. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, interestingly, is what I don't have in this number, and that you mentioned there, Tony, was nowhere in my calculation does it talk about, if you can reduce the number of boxes you might have at a particular store. So those are additional savings. The same with if you can eliminate a truck. I mean, those are huge savings that are not factored into the ROI. So as I wrap up my section, I mainly wanted a couple last things to think about is, the technology can help you earn business. And basically you come off as a progressive business. You're able to tell a customer that he no longer has to worry that he might run out of ice on a weekend, or that he's got to check to see if the box is full, or he's got to remind you that it's empty. You can tell him you're going to know it, and you're going to make sure that it's always refilled before it gets to that point, and to take that stress off of a customer. The other area is you got to always remember that I think a nightmare for all ice companies is when you hear about slip and fall accidents. And the fewer times you make a delivery and get in a store, the fewer times you have a chance of dripping ice or dripping water. So you have a chance of saving some potential risk there. And you have, if you can cut your deliveries down enough, you may be able to avoid hiring additional drivers. So that's the end of what I have to say on the ROI portion of this. And it pretty much concludes the information part. So we'll be moving into a question and answer portion that Gary Giroux will be hosting. Thank you.
John, Juan, and Tony, thank you for your insights today. Truly appreciated. And at this time, if there are some questions that you have had or want to ask, and you can throw them on the chat, we'll try to get through some of them. Maybe not all, but we will keep them all and get back to you with answers. So the first one that's come up is, what kind of alerts does it send, and how often does it check the boxes? Juan, can you answer that for us?
Yeah, I sure could. So the little unit is constantly reading ice. In fact, it's reading it every 2 minutes, and it reports in on an hourly basis. But anytime the unit detects a 10% movement up or down, it'll let us know. We then take that information, and the default that's worked really well that Tony really helped land at is just send me an alert anytime the box reaches 25% overall or 25% on the left side or the right side. I know a lot of you guys sell 20s and 10s or 7s and 22s. I can't keep track of the mixes. But if that's important, the customer feels he's out of ice on one SKU, that alert will work. You get that alert as a dashboard alert, and it also get it as a email. And then, of course, we also alert you when the unit stops communicating, which is indicative 9 out of 10 times of some GFI problem or somebody charging their cell phone and not plugging back that ice box. And the third alert that we get is anytime the box averages more than 32 degrees for 2 straight hours, you get a temperature alert, which is indicative of some performance problem. And again, that has been fine-tuned through a lot of trial and effort with Tony's group.
Great, thanks, Juan.
Sure.
We have another one. Based on the number of units required to pair with our equipment in the field, can the cost of equipment be carried over 2 or 3 years versus paying for this technology equipment up front? Great question. Probably more on an individual basis that there'd have to be some analysis of that. But it's a great suggestion, and we can certainly look into how we would make that work for someone. How does reporting work when I have 2 products in one merchandiser? Juan?
Sure. So again, back to the alerts, the way that IceQ can work is if you have a Model 60, typically the ICE guys will put multiple products in boxes that are at least 60 cubic feet or higher, at which point we have 3 or 4 sensors in those configurations. And so you can split the sensors to read 50% and 50% on one side. So you can have alerts triggered by the left side or the right side, and you can even go 1/3 and 2/3, left or right, depending on how you rotate your product out. So yes, we can measure multiple products.
Yeah, so yeah, it has the opportunity to measure 2 sides, and which you put products on each side. Great.
Yep.
Thanks, Juan. Do we have another question?
How long
does the unit last? Juan, what's the longevity to date?
Oh, so, well, Tony can attest to this. I mean, he, jumped on this almost, not quite 10 years ago, but he still has the same set of units clicking away. So the lifespan of the units that we're building and the new units that we're coming out here in the future, our expected SLAs is to last as long as the merchandiser does.
Okay.
Warranty period. Typically, the way the warranty period works is first year, no questions asked, bring it back, and we'll replace whatever component's bad. We never really charge anybody for that in that first year. If after, of course, a number of years pass, then there's a replacement cost by component.
Thanks, Juan. Another question? Ease of installation. Juan, you've watched and I've done this. I'll just say that I have been able to do it. So that's one level of how easy it is, but why don't you give a better description?
Sure. I mean, you can go on our website and there's countless videos and how-tos, and you get to hear me pontificate ad nauseum, but there's 2 types of installs. Those of you that have cold walls versus those of you that have auto defrost. On an auto defrost model, the install literally should be no more than 15 to 20 minutes because you can drill right up into the ceiling of the auto defrost without any fear. Cold wall, however, has a little thing called ice buildup in coils that do pose a challenge. So there's some extra hardware. You got to de-ice the machine, knock off the ice. So a cold wall installation requires definitely a little more care. And that installation can take anywhere between 30 minutes if you're really, really good at it, and upwards up to 40 minutes, sometimes even an hour, depending on how much ice buildup you guys have.
Great description, Juan. Thank you. Couple more questions. Will this presentation be available by PDF so that I can share with the rest of my team? Absolutely. We're going to send a link to this presentation, as well as a recording of this presentation for everyone that is on the webinar today. The ROI needs to take into account the time to install the units into the ice freezer units. More of a statement, but John, do you have anything you would add to that?
No, it's a valid suggestion that I'll have to take into consideration when calculating it in. I think it'll definitely make the first year ROI slightly less positive, but in the future years, I think it'll still show a pretty quick payoff. But it's a great suggestion to look at.
Great.
Yeah, I would also add that is a great fine-tuning thing. Definitely, there is a hard cost to install, but there are so many additional cost savings, John, that the model doesn't have, like out of stocks or a trip where you go and you no longer waste a truck by not deliver. A stop. What do they call it, Tony? A no-fill delivery. So you factor those in, and the ROI just goes up even more. But valid point, Robert.
All right. Is there a mobile app for these to track everything, or is it web-based? Juan?
I suppose that one's mine. Yeah, so it is web-based. So that means on your phone. It's actually it's not an app that you download, but it is incredibly mobile friendly. Happy to give you a guest account and you can check it out. The same functionality that you see on some of the slides I showed you is all available on your phone, including the map, and it's very easy to use.
Can it be used in a chest freezer, or is it specifically only for ice boxes? Interesting question in the sense that if it's an open chest freezer, then I would say that would be difficult to do, wouldn't you, Juan?
Yeah, I guess is the chest freezers the ones you guys are talking about, kind of like a coffin? Where
that's what I'm thinking, and maybe the ones with the lid is what they're inferencing here.
Yeah, I mean, we purpose built the technology to work with the merchandisers that are out there, but you guys out there are very creative, and a lot of you have used our stuff in actual store freezer sections, used it in your warehouses to monitor temperature. I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say no. I always like a challenge. As long as the sensor could be put inside the lid, I think it might work.
Yeah, we have not done it to date, though, to be clear. Correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Another question or two? What about areas with no cell service? Can it work over Wi-Fi?
Yeah,
we've had this conversation a couple times. Go ahead and give your expertise.
Yeah, we get this question quite a bit because people are saying, well, why do I got to pay $7.95 each month? Well, there's a lot more that goes into the $7.95 than just giving you pretty pictures. There's actual network costs that we have, but everybody's probably wondering, well, why don't you just use the customer's Wi-Fi? And the reality is that if we get into that business, now IceQ is managing thousands and thousands of little individual networks. And the fundamental point is that most businesses, from a security standpoint, are not going to let us have access to the Wi-Fi. What do they change the key? It becomes a nightmare. And so, no, that is not an option. And in most cases, your customers will not allow Wi-Fi access to IceQ.
Got it. I think that's about it. Do we have one more question, or is that it? Great. That looks like that's the last question for today. I certainly want to thank Tony Dixon of Olmsted Ice, Juan Marte of IceQ, and I also want to make sure we thank John Murphy for a great job being our expert and client insights during this. I think it was a thoughtful gesture to open the minds to how the technology can give greater purpose to your delivery. It can have a positive effect on your bottom line and be a competitive advantage for all of you. So two last thank yous. Number one to Carrie Lay and Jeannie Shelton, who behind the scenes worked on behalf of all of us to set this platform up. We appreciate their efforts. And to all the clients who have dialed in today, we respect and we appreciate your time. And thank you for joining us. Everyone should be getting an email from us that will have a link to the presentation as well as a recording. And if there's something further you want, you can look onto the website or contact us by email. We'll be more than happy to get with you to answer any questions that we can for you. Everyone have a healthy, safe, positive day. We appreciate you tuning in.
Thanks a lot, guys.